Hello students, welcome to Excellence. Welcome to our 29th weekly magazine where we'll be focusing from 10th September to 16th September 2017. As I have promised you in the previous videos that we will be releasing NCERT books. So if anyone is interested, please feel free to contact us at 9972000318. This is my personal number, you can WhatsApp me. Within a week's time, maybe by October 15th, I'll send you the links where you can actually see these videos accurately. Fine? So, after looking at this, let's quickly begin with what are the important events which were there in this particular week. The essay of the week is, "The greatest cruelty is our casual blindness to the despair of others." Here, I want you to read this with ethics point of view and bring out the ethical perceptions when it comes. The second important thing is about Rohingya refugees. Whenever anything happen in our neighboring countries, not only with respect to India, anywhere in the world, people usually turn a blind eye. And that has led to a lot of issues in the world. So just try to think from these points of view and see how well you can bring meaningful essay for this particular topic. There is a small debate happening in the country with respect to inequality. The most important thing that we need to understand whenever we talk about growing GDP in a country is actually with respect to inequalities. In a vast country like India, whenever the GDP numbers increases, remember, it is trying to help only few industrial sectors. But India is not moving towards inclusive development or inclusive GDP, where the poverty level has been reduced. So please try to use these statements properly when it comes to your essays, right? So India today has one of the highest levels of inequality in history. And whenever they talk about inequality, you should remember that you need to bring out the most important aspect of inequality, that is poverty. SubNationalism is not a threat. It is important for a democratic country like India. The growing discrepancies, the growing inequalities, not only between people which we saw just now, it is also increasing between states. Economic survey has detailedly explained with respect to the inequalities that exist between different states. And because of this particular reason, whenever we talk about the Finance Commission is also including some of the new parameters to reduce these inequalities as much as possible. Many people argue that these inequalities between states would actually lead to migration from poor states to so-called rich states within the country. Especially the southern states, Gujarat, which is actually doing well, will see a lot of migrants from other states. Whenever migrants come from other state, not only from other country to India, whenever within the state, if this happens in large scale, there are two possibilities that can actually come up. One, if the non-localites, what they usually call, come to this place, and if they start following their own culture without respecting the culture of the localites, there is high possibility that there would be some clashes. Second important factor, even if locals try to impose their culture forcefully on these non-locals, then also there is a possibility. This is social angle. But when we look at the economic perspective of the same thing, usually whenever people from outside come and settle here, then the problem will be they will be taking up the jobs. Now here this depends. For example, let me take Mumbai. When we are talking about Maharashtra or Mumbai, lot of people who migrate to this particular city, when compared to the traditional ones, you observe that here most of the people who come, they replace low-level jobs. Whereas people who visit Bangalore, Hyderabad, who migrate to these from north, they are usually well educated and they create jobs to the localites. So here, usually economically, if you see, Bangalore and Hyderabad is more benefited because of this, whereas Mumbai is not benefited. Local people are not very much benefited. The second important thing that we need to understand when we talk about Bangalore and Hyderabad, cities like this, the biggest problem is the cultural hegemony of the others who come in, because they believe that they are having or they are giving jobs to the locals. So because of this attitude, there is a fear that there can be some clashes culturally. Karnataka is a very good example where recently it demanded its own flag, and also it went to the extent of removing Hindi signboards across to show their anger against them. So here we need to understand that both locals and the migrants, whoever has come on job purposes, should respect each other's culture and try to follow their culture at the same time without any restrictions. So whenever this sort of things comes up, then it is very easy for us to understand that the subnationalism which is growing in this country is very, very helpful for our democratic progress. So the points that you have to write with respect to this varies from one particular perception to another perception. Within India, I have told you different cities, how exactly they face. And when we actually look into this particular issue of subnationalism, it is the idea of asserting the interest of one's own state, region or province as separate from the interest of the nation. Here, we usually observe that the subnationalists ask for separate statehood or increase their cultural things when it comes to implementation of any programs. Some of the demands of this subnationalism is not only seen today, it is there right from the beginning. The linguistic reorganization of states actually started with this. One of the major thing is movement of people, which actually creates some sort of unfairness either on the migrants or on the locals. So here we need to ensure that both are being satisfied, both interests are safeguarded in a democratic country like India. Else political parties will try to use this as a base, and once these negatives become base of political parties, then even the major political parties will also take up this issue and try to create some sort of inequality or some sort of division in the society. So it's very, very important for us to look into this subnationalism issue. Remember, until and unless these subnationalists do not ask for secession from the country, that is, if they say, I want to be a state within India and demand for statehood, it's very good. But if they demand for a separate country, then this becomes an issue for India's unity. Please see this particular case with the help of post-independence India, where you will be reading about national integration projects. Meteorological department has given one of the significant reasons why the east coast of India did not receive much rainfall during monsoons this year. You have heard of hurricanes and typhoons affecting China and United States, but when it comes to India, there was some sort of mistake or there was some sort of recurving of the cyclones in India as well. So this led to reduction of rainfall. So what exactly is the meaning of this? So when I consider this, usually the cyclones move in this direction. Actually, the cyclones have a tendency to first move towards west, then northwest, north, northeast, east. This is how they go. First they enter on the land. But sometimes due to difference in the pressure gradients, high pressure, low pressure and all, usually the cyclone which was moving here, before hitting the coast, they turn polewards and they recurve because of increasing influence of westerlies in the region. Jet streams, westerlies, all this play a very, very important role. So this is what we say recurving. That is, usually first it hits the land, give rainfall in this portion, and then it moves. But in few years, we see that before this comes in this direction, it starts moving in other direction. And some of the reasons what the meteorological department has given with respect to this is, usually it occurs during El Nino. Unfortunately, this year was not El Nino, but still it has occurred. But there are reports which say that scientists had predicted El Nino during August. So was this any reason? We are not yet sure. But what is the most important thing that they say is, usually if you look at the movement, this is how the winds blow. That is, northeast trade winds and westerlies blow like this. Sometimes due to weakening of these, it is replaced, the northeast is replaced by westerlies, and this leads to cyclones moving away from the coast. So this is what we say recurving of the cyclones, and this has led to reduced rainfall mostly on the eastern side of the country. In this particular issue about the federal maneuver, we are actually talking about language. There is increasing tendency of subnationalism and there is debate in different formats. We need to understand that Pakistan tried to impose Urdu on Bengali people, they revolted and it led to Bangladesh. Sri Lanka tried to impose Sinhalese and this led to LTTE, and finally they had to give up by accepting Tamil as an official language of Sri Lanka. Similarly, when India wanted to impose Hindi across India, Dravidian people opposed this, and this led to some sort of non-Hindi also getting recognition. We should be careful here that what started as this movement has led to some decline in Tamil Nadu. But when we look at India as a diverse country, it is very, very important for a democracy like India to adopt to these principles whenever we look at our neighboring countries. So usually we tell to these neighboring countries to follow our example and divide it on the basis of the ethnicity or language which is more important for these states. And once you divide the states on the basis of these, then the people who are fighting for some power within these communities will also be satisfied that they got a state being formed on the basis of their own culture or ethnicity, and when they share power with the center, then that would lead to federalism. If not, that would definitely lead to separatism. So you should be careful when it comes to this particular issue. The next important issue is actually with respect to disaster next door, where we will be looking at the Rohingya refugees. Each one of you might have come across this Rohingya refugees. You do not know whether to support the country when it comes to national security or to look at the innocent people who are being killed mercilessly in the name of security or terrorism in Myanmar. And should we support them? Some people say it is because of religion. Some people say no, it is because of security. So what is more important for a country like India? And not only as a country, but also from the point of view of humanity. Remember today, if any group fight against their own state in any form, it is actually called as a terrorist country. So irrespective of this particular thing, we should be careful whenever we use the term terrorism with respect to any group. Once you call them terrorists, it is very difficult to take them back, and you brand the entire community as terror community, and they will not get place or shelter to stay anywhere. But before we start, I just want to tell you, there are some differences between refugees, migrants and internally displaced people. I hope I have already told you, but still for a quick revision for those who have newly joined our courses. When we talk about refugees, refugees are the ones who have left their home country because of the fear of persecution. That is, they may be killed in the name of language, religion, ethnicity, culture, anything. So it's very, very important for us to ensure that whenever we are talking about Rohingya refugees or any refugees, they have fear in their home country that they will be killed. Second important thing, migrants are the one who move from one country to another country in search of job opportunities. So whenever I'm talking about migrants, I can divide them into legal migrants and illegal migrants. Legal migrants are the one who take permission and then enter into the country. Illegal migrants are the one who come without taking permission. If we take United States of America, people from across the world, they move to United States of America after applying for visa. And the United States grant visa to them. So this is legal migrants. Trump imposed ban on visa. This is ban on legal migration. But whenever we are talking about the illegal migration, Mexicans entering into United States without applying visa is called as illegal migration. No country would like to call their people as illegal migrants. Here what we need to understand is that if you call someone to be a refugee and if they become or if they enter into our country, you cannot deport them back. That is, you cannot send them back to their home country where there is a fear of death. That is, India cannot deport Rohingyas back to Myanmar if we accept them as refugees. But if we accept them as illegal migrants, then we have a possibility of sending them back without any problem. So this is why Home Ministry and others are actually using the term illegal migrants rather than using the term refugees, because they can send them back. Second important thing, most of the developed countries whichever has signed refugee convention today is a bit worried to accept refugees for a simple reason, that if they accept refugees, then they have to give food, shelter, jobs and other things to these refugees. The states are not in a position to help their own citizens, so it is very difficult for them to help the refugees who actually come from other countries. So here we need to understand that the problem is with the definition itself, where when we use or when we call someone to be refugees, you need to provide them shelter, food, education and other things, and at the same time you should allow their settlement in our country. And whenever they settle, you cannot send them back until and unless the issues are settled in their home country or peace prevails in their home country. But unfortunately, even if LTT is completely removed from the country, Sri Lankan Tamils still stay in India. So many people argue that these are the issues that we need to consider with respect to refugees. That is, once you accept a refugee, you cannot send them back at any cost, and this can be a biggest trouble for us. So it's very, very important for us to look at these. Illegal migration, when we talk Islamic extremism, here we are actually trying to say that there are certain people who have taken up arms to fight against the other countries in the name of religion. And the political tensions in this has led to people migrating to different parts of the country. It is believed that Rohingyas are present till Jammu and Kashmir. India has a lot of issues with respect to Rohingyas, mainly because it is closer to northeast India. Most of these Rohingya refugees, if they are accepted and if they enter into our country, and if there is Naga groups or some other groups which are present in this region, and if these Rohingyas try to join hands with these groups and fight against Myanmar from India, it would be a very big disaster for Indo-Myanmar relationship. Second important thing, even if these people join NSCN and create trouble to India, it would be a biggest problem for India. Given the fragility of Northeast India, we should be careful whenever we talk about or whenever we give such suggestions to the country. So it's very, very important for us to take a conscious step. India has also recently went for Operation Insaniyat, which had actually helped Bangladesh in managing the heavy influx of refugees, right? And India is trying to ensure that more number of refugees coming from Bangladesh is removed and more number of refugees from Myanmar entering into Bangladesh is also reduced. There is much more to cover with respect to Rohingyas when it comes to humanity. Here we need to understand that most importantly, we need to identify who are terrorists and who are not. Less secured or less insecure people should be taken into the country so that the humanity persists in this world. When it comes to elections, India actually adopts first past the post system. What is the meaning of this? Let us take an MLA who has contested, right? There are 20 people who have contested for this particular post. Now, out of this 20, only one will be selected on the basis of whoever has got even one vote more than the others. Now, they are actually talking about something called as proportional representation. What is the meaning of this? You will be considered to be elected only if you get 50% plus 1. That is, it should be more than 50%. How should I ensure this? So what happens if I have 4 people, A, B, C, D. First one has got 35, second one has got 25, right? So another one has got 20, the other one has got 15, and you'll have another one who has got 5, right? Now, first they will consider the 5th one. So how did he get this votes? So everyone will be asked to give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have to give the numbers. Once they give the numbers, usually 5 votes have been given to E because 5 people have said, I will first vote for E. Right? Then what I'll do, I'll actually take up the votes of this and try to give these or try to transfer the votes to A or B or C or D. Different countries adopt the transferring mechanism differently. If we look at the presidential elections, we usually say that the number of second preference votes of E is actually taken. So few people would have given E2 and few people would have given the same number of people who have given 2 to E would have given 1 to someone. So we will try to allocate these to that. Say for example, someone has given 1 to A and 2 to E. So one vote will be added to A, 36, right? And another one is added to this if it is for B. So let me take a second case where one is B, second is E. So I'll give one vote to B. Or in United States, what they usually do, they will ask E, to whom will you like to give? So the 5 votes will be given to A if he likes to give it to A. So this is what proportional representation actually is. Different countries adopt differently. Now there are talks that with single political party like BJP coming to power, the regional political parties or smaller political parties do not have any source or do not have anything to do for. So what they are trying to do is they want to have some influence in the political parties. So they are asking that as our votes, if we have to ensure that we also have same significance in the election, then if you can adopt this particular model, then even E is very important. People whoever vote for E will think before voting him, and he may actually support any person who is actually good or who also shares same ideologies. It would be something similar to Mahagathbandhan. In Mahagathbandhan, usually we observe that if there are 200 MPs or MLA seats in a particular state, so the party whichever has to come to power should get at least 101. If it doesn't get, what they do, they usually combine with other political parties and come to power. But here we are actually going one step down, that is where we are looking at the selection of these MLAs. We need to actually focus most importantly about the proportional representation. That is, if there are 20 people, even the last person votes will be important if he transfers the same to the first guy whoever has to win. So this will give some scope. So the last person who is actually joining this may say that, sir, I am ready to give my votes to you only if you ensure that in my particular constituency or my particular area, you are going to do this particular work. Else I am not going to give my votes for you. So if this can happen, even minute issues, minorities become very, very important for the country. This week is mostly associated with refugees. You should be aware about the Chakma refugees. That is, India is actually granting citizenship to Chakmas and Hajongs. The most important reason for this is these are not the new migrants, but they came mainly because of a particular dam collapse. And also during Bangladesh War of Independence, we actually observe that these people were massacred as they were Buddhists and Hindus, and they had migrated to most parts of the country. Mostly they have settled near Arunachal Pradesh. Today their numbers are in lakhs. India wants to give citizenship at least to their kids so that they enjoy the rights. In Arunachal Pradesh, they have said that we will give you citizenship so it will be very easy for you to participate in elections, and at the same time some PDS and other social security measures can be provided to these people. Unfortunately, we have not given land rights here mainly because we want to be sure that the demography of these regions are also not disturbed, and whenever we distribute land against the local issues or local interests, then this would lead to more separatist tendencies in the region. So at one side we are actually saying no to Rohingya refugees, but on the other side we have giving after 5 decades some sort of rights to this. So rather than asking those people to come to our country without rights, it is very important for us to ensure that give rights to those people who are actually staying from decades here. There is growing debate in the country with respect to bullet train, that is, whether should India aim for bullet trains or we need to look at some of these problems that are happening in the country, especially with respect to railways at the same time. Being an IAS officer or aiming for IAS officer, you should not get into these type of things, mainly because if we actually say that bullet trains are of no use, then there is no scope for ISRO or anything which can actually focus on Mars mission, which will also be of no use to our own people. But once we aim towards such, we get technologies which can be implemented, and once the connectivity improves in the country, this would automatically try to improve the business across the places. Second important thing, we can actually understand Delhi Metro, the significance of that, which tries to connect different parts. Bangalore has recently got its own metro, and the connectivity has helped majority of the people to move from one place to another place without actually disturbing the traffic. So because of this, we actually see some sort of traffic has been reduced, but it is still huge because the connectivity is not complete. So whenever it comes to this, we need to understand mostly UPSC question will not be whether we should need this or not. Even if they ask you, that would be critically to see whether you support it or you also talk illogically by arguing that you should not go for these developmental projects. Second important thing we need to look at this particular aspect is with respect to Shinzo Abe's visit, where for almost 8 kilometers Narendra Modi and Shinzo Abe travelled in an open jeep to show cause their friendship. Now when we are talking about Japanese investment in our country, we need to focus first and most importantly about the aircraft agreement which has been signed, where both the countries have agreed for n number of flight movement without any restrictions. Second important thing is with respect to the bullet train. So here let us take some more time to understand how exactly the project comes up rather than reading what will be the speed limits and all. Only once it comes to practicality, UPSC will ask you a question. And the third most important thing is actually with respect to Japan's investments in Northeast. China has actually said that Japan cannot invest in Northeast because there is a disputed territory between India and China. India claims Arunachal Pradesh as part of India, so there is no doubt that any claim of this is illogical when it comes to India, especially when we are actually talking about the investment in Arunachal Pradesh. Second important thing, if China sticks to this and keeps on saying and build international pressure, that is why Japan is actually investing in this particular region, then it would be interesting if India can counter back by asking Chinese why they are actually investing in the POK, which is also seen to be disputed by China. So if China wants India to stop, then India also wants China to stop this particular thing. So it's very, very important for us to look at Indo-Japan relations this year. The next important program is Swachh Hi Seva, or cleanliness is service. So here when we are talking about Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, it's been already 3 years and we have made a significant progress when we actually look at the objectives of it, that is increase the number of toilets present in the country. It is not 100% but it has done compared to the previous years. Second important thing we need to observe when it comes to Swachh Bharat mission is we need to ensure that the campaign keeps on running regularly so that the people are still conscious, as October 2nd is approaching. Government of India has actually planned to spread awareness about this. So Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation, which is the nodal ministry for implementation of Swachh Bharat mission, is actually participating in this particular campaign. And the most important ambition of this is to ensure some sort of awareness among the people so that they construct toilets quickly, and we would actually try to reach a stage where there would be no open defecation at all. So the next important issue is actually with respect to rural distress, where they are focusing upon the loan waivers. Many political parties are actually saying we will give you loan waivers, and they come to power, and when they come to power, the actual implementation of this is not proper. We have seen some pictures where the Yogi Adityanath's government has given just 1 rupee, 2 rupee, and to some people even in paisas as loan waiver. But rather than this, we need to understand that India is a country with increasing population. The land holding sizes are also decreasing because of division. Earlier, we used to have one single family which used to have different or enough amount of land which was easy for it to go for tilling. But today, most of the people who own land are not tilling, and they are actually giving it to zamindas. Even if those people who are actually having land, and if they are tilling the land, the biggest problem is that the size is decreasing because the debt is also increasing. So it is believed that as the debt increases and other forms of loans are not available, then there would be some sort of tensions in the rural areas, and this would end up lot of farmers committing suicide. So it's very, very important for us to focus about the rural distress that is growing on in the country. The next science and technology important area is actually with respect to scientists map lunar water with the data from Chandrayaan-1. The meaning of this is scientists are actually using Chandrayaan-1 and the different images or different equipments that are present to actually try to understand how exactly the moon lunar surface is actually present. So with the help of this, India is actually planning to see where water is actually present, or if there was existence of water in moon in any form. So if this occurs, or if we can actually find it, then it would be a great scientific innovation. Some factual data with respect to Chandrayaan-1 is given. They may not ask you, but still, as it is in news, it's very, very important for you to look at this. The next important area is with respect to ethics question. Please try to address it, or please try to solve it. As I have already told you, whenever you need to ensure that you need some sort of assistance, please feel free to contact us. Second important thing is whoever wants this magazine, you need to sign up and then sign in. If you need anything, even the previous ones, we will be providing it for you. Guys, thank you. Thanks for watching.